For years, Europe welcomed Chinese investment, believing in the promise of global trade. But as China quietly acquired key European tech companies, the mood shifted. Europe realized it was losing control of its technological future. The polite smiles faded. Suspicion replaced trust. Chinese entities, often linked to the state, were buying up robotics, green energy, and most crucially, semiconductor firms. The strategy: acquire, learn, and transfer knowledge back to China. Europe was funding its own decline, and the alarm bells finally rang. The response was swift, a continent-wide clampdown on foreign takeovers. What once seemed like simple business deals were now seen as national security threats. Every deal was scrutinized, every buyer vetted, and the default answer became no. Europe drew a line in the sand. Its technological assets were no longer for sale. The message to Beijing: the era of unchecked investment is over. Europe is now fighting to protect its next industrial revolution. Enter Nexperia, a Dutch chipmaker quietly powering everything from cars to toasters. In 2018, Chinese firm Wingtech bought Nexperia, and the Dutch government approved the deal. But soon, insiders raised alarms. The new owners were focused on transferring technology to China. Reports surfaced of systematic knowledge extraction. This was no partnership, but a strategic heist. The Dutch government, realizing the scale of the threat, launched an investigation. Wingtech wasn't just any company. It was part of Beijing's plan for semiconductor independence. By acquiring Nexperia, China gained decades of European R&D and manufacturing know-how. The Dutch had sold a critical asset to a strategic rival, and the consequences were immediate. The Nexperia case became a wake-up call for all of Europe. It exposed how state-backed Chinese acquisitions could undermine national security. The Dutch government faced a hard truth. Short-term profit had come at the cost of long-term sovereignty. The friendly business deal was, in reality, a hostile takeover. Europe was about to respond in unprecedented ways. When the Dutch intervened at Nexperia, Beijing's response was swift and aggressive. China accused the Netherlands of protectionism, while ignoring its own restrictive practices. Then came the real threat. China restricted exports of gallium and germanium, key materials for semiconductors. With control over 80% of the world's supply, this was economic blackmail. Chinese state media painted Europe as the villain, deflecting from the evidence of technology transfer. But instead of backing down, Europe's resolve hardened. China's reaction confirmed European fears. These companies were extensions of state power. The Dutch realized they were right to worry. The confrontation had exposed the true stakes of the technology race. Dutch investigators soon uncovered a massive organized technology transfer operation. Sensitive R&D, including advanced semiconductors for 5G and military use, was being relocated to China. Engineers were lured away, and entire databases of intellectual property were mirrored to Chinese servers. The Dutch government acted fast, invoking emergency powers to seize control of Nexperia. State officials took over, auditing every department for evidence of ongoing collaboration with China. The company was treated as a potential crime scene. The audit revealed the full extent of the theft. Europe's technological edge was being stolen in broad daylight. The emergency seizure stopped further damage, but much had already been lost. It was a harsh lesson in how quickly a nation's innovation can be siphoned away. Europe realized it needed to act before it was too late. As Europe reeled from the Nexperia scandal, war in Ukraine exposed a new danger. Investigators found European-made chips inside Russian missiles and drones. Many traced back to companies linked to Nexperia. The threat was no longer theoretical. European technology was fueling enemy weapons. The US pressured Europe to tighten export controls and rethink its approach to Chinese investment. The debate shifted from economics to security. European innovation was being weaponized. The Nexperia case became a symbol of how Western tech could end up in hostile hands. The urgency to act had never been greater. How did Wingtech afford Nexperia? The answer: state-backed Chinese funding. Beijing's investment funds, created to acquire foreign technology, bankrolled the deal. The money trail was deliberately complex, routed through shell companies to hide state involvement. Investigators found the fingerprints of the Chinese government all over the acquisition. This wasn't private enterprise, it was a national mission. Chinese firms could outbid European rivals because they had state backing, not just profit motives. The discovery revealed a coordinated, state-led strategy to dominate key tech sectors. Every Chinese investment now looked like a potential security threat. The Nexperia affair triggered a domino effect across Europe. Governments began blocking Chinese takeovers of strategic tech firms. Italy vetoed the sale of a semiconductor company. Germany blocked chip and satellite deals. Even the UK forced a Chinese firm to divest from its largest chip plant. The open-door policy was over. National security now trumped free market ideals. Deals that once sailed through were now dead on arrival. Europe's approach to China shifted from engagement to suspicion. The continent was finally building a coordinated defense against technology theft. The Nexperia case was just the beginning of a much larger reckoning. Europe's story about China has changed, from opportunity to threat. Chinese investment is now seen as a risk, not a benefit. Technology is recognized as the foundation of national security. The EU has introduced new laws to block foreign takeovers of critical firms. But many want even tougher measures, like the European Chips Act, aiming for tech sovereignty. Europe is building regulatory walls, not with stone, but with laws and subsidies. The goal: reduce reliance on China and secure vital supply chains. The old belief that economic integration would liberalize China is dead. Europe now sees China as a systemic rival. Protecting innovation is essential for economic independence and democracy. A new kind of Cold War is here, not with tanks, but with technology. The dividing line is a silicon curtain between the democratic West and China. The weapons patents, export controls and blacklists. The prize control over AI, quantum computing, biotech and semiconductors. Countries must choose sides: democratic innovation or authoritarian control. Global supply chains are fracturing along these new lines. The stakes: economic power, military strength, and the rules of the digital age. Europe must rebuild its industrial base and defend its intellectual property. The Nexperia case was a wake-up call. Protecting innovation is now a matter of sovereignty and security. The future of Europe and the liberal order depends on it.